Hi, this is Miss Diorama. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will show you how I made this tiny 1:24 scale weatherboard house with working windows, doors and lights. This is the front wall that I made in my last video where I demonstrated how to make working windows and doors in 1:24 scale. I also made the same wall in two other popular model scales, being 1:48 scale or O scale and 1:87 scale or HO scale. The link to that video will also be in the description, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. The parts for this tiny weatherboard house have been cut from a combination of materials including 3mm MDF, 1.5mm mat board and heavy cardstock. For this project I used a laser cutter which also has the ability to engrave. The template is available for purchase in my shop. However, I don't recommend getting this template unless you own a laser and the appropriate laser control software. Since making the front wall, I used my laser to engrave lines into it to represent weatherboard cladding. I also used the laser to cut a round hole for a light and also engraved a groove for the light cable to sit in. I did this so it would match the rest of the walls, which were also engraved with weatherboards. It was now time to paint all the other walls to match the front wall. For this I used white acrylic paint. On the front wall, the laser caused some discoloration when engraving the weatherboard lines, so another coat of white covered this. When that was done, I used medium grey to paint the patio deck and the interior floor of the house. I painted all the parts for the rest of the windows white to match the existing window. The roof and the roof trims were painted in medium grey. After all the parts were painted, it was time to install the lights. I am using some battery-operated micro LED lights for this. I like using these lights as I can cut as many as I need from the string, rejoin them where necessary, and they already come with batteries. Using wire cutters, I cut the battery pack from the string of lights because I'll only be using about 4 of the lights. The lights will be glued in place in line with the holes on these wall pieces, and the light wires will run through these grooves. I will be connecting the battery pack later. The negative wire needs to be referenced, which I do by colouring it with a marker. These light wires are covered in a type of enamel, therefore I remove the enamel from the ends of the wires with a file. That way the current will conduct properly to make the lights work. Once that's done, I mark the negative wire on each light and test to make sure they're all working. Now to attach the lights into place. The other two lights will run through the same groove on the back of the front wall. Finally, I mark the negative wire on these lights and test to make sure they're also working, in the same way that I did with the other lights. I'm using PVA wood glue on the whole interior side of both walls. These cardstock cutouts in the same shape as the front walls will cover the light wires. I'm exposing the lights to the interior as well, as I will be installing a corresponding light on the interior of the house. This will mean that the inside of the house will also light up. I followed this with some more white acrylic paint to touch up any unpainted areas. Now to make the wall lights. For this, I cut a silver plastic bead cap in half. I also cut a 14mm length of aquarium tube. Which was also then cut in half lengthwise. One of these pieces was glued to the wall over the light. Followed by half the bead cap at the bottom end of the tube, and the other half of the bead cap at the top end of the tube. I cut 3 more of these plastic silver bead caps in half to make up the second interior wall light and the 2 exterior wall lights. Then it was time to assemble the windows. The window panes are glued to a piece of clear plastic. I am using a clear binder cover for this. Once the glue is dry, I cut around the window panes. If you're using a craft knife for this, make sure the blade is sharp. Scissors can also be used for this task. Each of the window panes with glass are glued to another that doesn't have any glass. When the glue is dry on the windows, they can be installed. Each of these 3 exterior frames are then glued over the first window pane. The exterior frames are followed with a windowsill. On the other side, the bottom sash is placed inside the window frame. But first, an interior frame is glued on. This is a good time to do some paint touch-ups on all the new parts that have been installed. This paint will have to dry fully before I install the bottom sliding sashes, otherwise they will stick to the paint and they won't open. With the paint now dry, the sliding sashes can now be installed, followed by the interior window frames. The frames prevent the sliding sashes from falling out. I do the same thing for the other 2 windows. The sliding sashes can now be opened and closed. With the windows now completed, the house can be assembled. I apply wood glue to the notches and to the edges of each piece. The wires for the lights are threaded through the hole in the floor. These clamps are used to keep the joints together while the glue dries. With the glue now dry, the patio deck can be installed. These parts will form the ceiling. Glue is applied to the wainscoting piece. The glue is allowed to dry. Once the glue is dry, I do some more paint touch-ups. I need to open up this hole for the light wires to pass through. This is a clear flower-shaped bead cap. It will make a great ceiling light. These parts will make up some stumps for the house. They are glued together in pairs. It was now time for yet some more paint touch-ups. Now back to the house stumps. These squares are going to be the bases and tops of the stumps. The squares are glued onto the stumps. The stumps are painted with a medium grey acrylic paint. With the paint dry, the stumps can now be attached to the underside of the house. Some trims are then installed to enhance the appearance of the house. Then the balcony railings are attached. It is now time to construct the stairs. The 4 step treads are glued into place in the slots on one of the stair risers. The second stair riser is then attached to the other end of the step treads. The stairs can now be glued into place. Before the roof is attached, there are a few more trims needed. Now the ceiling piece will be attached. The light wires are fed through this hole in the ceiling piece. The patio ceiling light is the same as the interior ceiling light. I test again to make sure the lights are all working properly. It's not pleasant when you install lights into a project like this, only for 1 or 2 of them not to work properly. That's why I test them regularly along the way. And now the lights can be hooked up to the power source. With that, the lights are now permanently attached to the battery pack. Now the handrails can be attached. This is followed with some more trims to the exterior of the house. I'm using the Proxon pen sander to miter the tops of the corner house trims. It was finally time to install the roof. I wasn't really happy with the stair railings being grey, so I painted them white like the rest of the railings. Then I added a fascia piece to the patio roof. It was time to construct the base for this tiny house. 2 pieces of polystyrene were cut to size and glued together with PVA wood glue. I marked where the house will sit and the location for the battery pack. I made a container for the base using 3mm MDF. This will be the battery compartment door. I attach it to the underside of the base. The battery compartment is closed in with this cover made of cardstock. The base is covered with tile grout and glue. Once dry, it's then painted. This is followed by the application of static grass. The house was nearly finished at this stage, but there was one more thing to do. I will quickly show you how I made a swing seat for the front patio. I painted the parts and assembled them using craft glue. Once the glue was dry, the seat got another coat of paint. I created some holes in the seat arms with my hobby drill. I cut down some jewellery head pins using some wire cutters. These were glued into the holes in the seat sides. I removed the cotton from this cotton swab. This chain will be used to hang the swing seat. You can see I've added a few jump rings to it. There were 6 jump rings in total, 2 for the swing to hang from and 4 to hold the seat in place. The excess chain was trimmed off. The jump rings were attached to the head pins with glue. I created these U-brackets out of the leftover wire from the head pins. I also created a type of anchor beam for the swing seat to hang from. The U-shaped brackets were attached to the underside of the hanging beam to make it look like they're holding it up. The swing seat was glued to the patio ceiling. It was time to glue the house in place on the base. I pulled the cable through the hole and secured the battery pack in the chamber. Then I painted the sides of the base white, and hypothetically you could call this finished. Not quite though, I added a few more touches which you can enjoy if you stick around for a little while longer. There will be another video showing just how this fencing and garden was made in detail, so if you're interested, be sure to check that one out. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you do subscribe, be sure to turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And to all of my subscribers, a big thank you. I really appreciate your support. Bye for now and see you in the next video.